All right, here we go. I am talking to the future. You're listening to the past in your present. Grandmaster C here, introducing you to Chapter 16 Bioengineering. Woohoo! Man, that's action packed because one of my oldest friends is an actual bioengineer. He has his PhD. You could consider him a scientist, if you will. Okay, but let's take a look at it. So I'm going to break this up into parts. I do have a couple of online activities for you guys to do in this chapter as the time goes through. But today I'm going to go through a chunk of the chapter, a small, relatively short chunk. Well, okay, maybe not short. Doesn't matter. Our essential question is how far do humans go in bioengineering of plants and animals before we have gone too far? That's a very interesting question because the rate that technology has been going, it's astounding how fast things have changed compared to when I was a little kid compared to now. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like in 5, 10 years from now. I can't. I don't know about you guys, but how far do humans go? Is there a limit? Is there no limit? Because those involve certainly moral and ethical questions. And I'm going to be dealing with some of that as we go through this chapter. Okay? So let's get on with it. So for us today, we're going to look at engineering, bioengineering. You're going to define it. You say, well, that's a pretty short objective. Not quite. It covers an awful lot of things. So let's get this thing going. So for bioengineering, it relies definitely on biology. Wow, that's a shock. It uses biotechnology. Now, with that, in bioengineering, you've got three main areas of concentration. There's biological engineering, agricultural engineering, and biomedical engineering, which is what my friend has been involved with. Okay, so that's it. So click to add title. Don't worry about it. So biological engineering or bioengineering slash bioengineering, it's the application of principles of biology and the tools of engineering to create usable, tangible, economically viable products. And I'm using Wikipedia as a source on this because I thought, that covered it in a nutshell and we're done. No, no, we're not. Okay. But when we talk about, yes, you're using the basic ideas of biology. We're using engineering tools that, let's be honest, we've covered so many engineering tools throughout the year to create something that would be usable, tangible. Tangible means it's something that it's real. We can see it, we can hold on to it, and then we talk about economically viable products. Well, what do we mean by that? Well, we can actually sell it and we can make some money off of it. Because that also helps drive human inspiration, human ingenuity, human invention. It's not just biological engineering itself. When we look at agricultural engineering, now we're looking at agricultural production and processing. So when we look at agricultural engineering, we're going to look at mechanical, civil, electrical. There's food science and chemical engineering. Now, again, this also requires a knowledge of agricultural principles, which would include knowledge like soil science, for example. It is practically the dirtiest of all the sciences out there, soil science, because it's really dirty. I'm laughing at my own joke. Okay. So, when we look at biomedical engineering, okay, that's also medical engineering. We're applying engineering principles and design concepts to medicine and biology for healthcare purposes. Now, that is also Wikipedia's version of it. Um, so what I did at some point, last week I think it was, or the week before, there's this little hair. Okay. I talked to my friend through the messenger thing at Facebook, and we chatted a little bit, and I explained to him, hey, this year I'm teaching a general survey course on engineering. So I'm looking at biomedical engineering. And so, really, the parts that you're seeing here, this is parts of that conversation. And those are his words, not mine. Okay. So, biomedical engineering encompasses devices and things of that nature. So, pacemakers or pacing technology, medical imaging, biomechanics, prosthesis development, biomaterials, etc. Now, let's hold on here for a moment. A pacemaker is a device that allows the heart, it sends electrical current to the heart to help the heart beat properly. My mom had one of those because her heart was not beating enough to supply the flow of blood through the entire body. Her lungs still worked. She was breathing on her own, but the heart was kind of weakened and it needed that little bit of extra help. So a pacemaker, it's a battery. They would plant it under the skin here. The battery is about, oh, this big around, okay? It's under the skin, and the wire would go into you and into the bottom of the heart. And it was set to every so many seconds to send this electrical circuitry, to send this electrical impulse. Okay, which is also one of the reasons why you don't, for a person who has a pacemaker, they don't want to be around things that are magnetic, resonancing imagery, MRIs. They don't want to be near microwave ovens because that can really mess up the pacemaker, and that could cause a heart attack for the person. Could also kill them too. Medical imaging, we talked about MRIs, we talked about CT scans, biomechanics. All right. Think about developing a new type of elbow joint that you put inside or a hip replacement. Prosthesis development, if a person loses their arm, let's say from the elbow up, a prosthesis would be an arm here with a hand that they would go and work with it. And depending on, the kind of technology they have, that they might have some freedom of movement with that. I don't know enough to go any further than that. So that's what my friend was saying. Biomedical engineering encompasses devices and things of that nature. So pacemakers or pacing technology, medical imaging, biomechanics, prosthesis development, biomaterials. In general, bioengineering will focus more on microbiology and genetics, while the biomedical engineer will focus on physiology and then electrical or mechanical engineering. You may remember my former student Thomas when he came and talked to you guys, and he really said, that you needed to know a bit of everything in order to do the things that he's doing today. Well, anyways, this is my friend, and yes, he is a bona fide doctor. He has his PhD in biomedical engineering. He got his undergraduate degree in UC San Diego. Okay, it's one of the few places in the country that has a biomedical degree as a bachelor's program. And there were two places in the country that they offered a graduate degrees, a master's and a PhD. And he took the one over at the University of Minnesota. So he spent, wow, I would say maybe 10 to 12 years in Minnesota working on that. He worked very, very hard, and it did pay off for him, certainly. He's the only one of our group who actually has a PhD. But, anyways, so this guy, third degree black belt when he was in high school. I'm just saying for all the haters out there. But the thing is, he developed hyperspectral imaging, HSI, at the University of Texas, Arlington. Okay. He translated it to surgical and clinical bedside at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center and founded the Laboratory of Biomedical Engineering at the University of Texas, Arlington. It's called Player. Okay. So that's the device. Now, he wasn't the only one. I mean, he was the main guy, but he had other people helping him. And it started out that they were looking, the US Air Force had these extra infrared sensors They were going to give it away because the technology wasn't sophisticated enough for them at the time. So my friend took them and they decided to mess around with it, and that's pretty much the final machine. Now, what's the idea behind it? It scans burnt tissue to see how much oxygenation, how much oxygen is taking place underneath the burnt flesh. Because when a burn victim is brought in to the emergency room and you know that they got to go into the burn area, looking at the burnt tissue, you can tell if it's like a first or second or third degree burn. But the question is, on the surface, you can't tell how much damage. Has the burnt tissue gone all the way to the bone, for example? Okay, this is some pretty serious stuff. So this device goes and scans the area to see how much oxygen is in that area underneath that burned flesh that our eyes can't penetrate. Okay, why do we care? Because that actually helps the burn specialist on how to approach the surgery. How far does he need to go in? He or she needs to go in. Because one of the things about burn victims, I mean, if your outside is blackened, carbonated, like your hamburger got overcooked, they literally got to take a scrubber and scrub that off. Now, for the victim, if they're still alive, they need serious painkillers because this is a painful operation. This is a painful procedure for them. And it puts a lot of stress on the body, too. So, what does that look like? So, you got two pictures here. You got one hand that they attached a rubber band to the finger on purpose to cut off the blood flow. Now, if you're cutting off the blood flow, guess what? Oxygen isn't going in there. Now, if you look, the rest of the hand here, okay, you see the nice colors, and you can look here on the right-hand side for percent of oxygenation, and that's all cool and everything. But we notice here, well, there's not, not a lot of oxygen in there. In fact, how about try 0? Okay, so now they took off the rubber band. Now the blood is rushing through all of a sudden, and look at the color of the finger compared to what you have over here with the rest of the hand. It's a lot more red. Well, what's happening? You're getting more oxygen flowing in really fast, and your cells inside that finger are starving. Okay? So, yeah, very useful thing to have. Okay. So, for that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop here because you got to define bioengineering. We looked at the idea of bioengineering focusing more on microbiology and genetics. Biomedical engineering focuses on physiology, electrical, or mechanical engineering. Okay, so again, when you look at bioengineering, it's everything in the lab using a microscope. So you're going to deal with genetics, you're going to deal with microbiology. Biomedical, now it's outside the microscope. Okay, now you're looking at how do we work with humans? How do we help people with this? Okay, and like I said, my friend does hold the patent on that. So, I mean, if it ever comes into widespread use, that would be definitely a big thing for him. Okay, that definitely would be a moneymaker for him. And like I said, this is an invention that he had. Hey, I hope that this benefited you guys as we're starting now this chapter of bioengineering. I'll catch you on the flip side.